Well, we have a hotly, what do you call it, advertised product today that I've been seeing all over the internet. And it took me a little while to get mine in, another story. But we're going to take a look today at the brand new Chanel 9-pan 587, the new Smoky. This is their 9-pans they started with last year, and this is their newest edition, which is a soft smoky eye palette. We're also going to take a look at the rest of the collection, which includes a lipstick in the satin formula in the shade Crush, and we will look at a comparison. And then there's also a re-promote of one of the cream to powder blushes in Rose Radiant, and these are my favorite Chanel blushes. I wish they had come out with a new color, but this is a re-promote. So if taking a look at the new sort of mini Coco Mademoiselle Chanel collection sounds good to you, then I really would appreciate it if you would like, subscribe, follow along, shop my links, all that goodness. It's Unsolicited Eyevice on Instagram and on YouTube. So last Christmas, we were really surprised when Chanel debuted 3 of their 9-pan high-intensity eyeshadow palettes. If you remember, there was a space-themed one, there was one that was like primary colors, jewel tones, and then one that was like kind of a 70s palette. They were really beautiful, and what separated them from like a traditional Chanel palette was they had a lot of really interesting finishes, and they were very highly pigmented. Well, as part of this new Coco Mademoiselle collection, to go along with their new Coco Crush fragrance, they have debuted their new palette, which is called the new Smoky. It's the 9 ombres, high intensity effects, multi-effect eyeshadow palette. And so before I go any further, let's take a minute and go through the palette and swatch it. Now the palette has 4 topper shades, which are on the outer corners, and then on the center, sort of cross, is mattes, satins, kind of light metallics, but the shades you would use for building up the looks of the toppers. So let's take a look, going from the top row across, and Chanel names don't have, or Chanel shadows don't have names, they have just numbers. So this would be 1, 2, and 3. And you can see right off the bat that one in particular is a gorgeous, what you call it, like just a gorgeous topper, as is this one. So let me swatch those for you. And because these are softer colors, the softer mattes in here will need to be built up a little bit. But that's the first 3 colors, 1, 2, and 3. You can see that number 1 is really the star of the show, and that number 2 shade is very close to my skin color. Okay, now on the second row, it's all mattes and satins, and so we have shade 4, which is kind of a browny mauve. We have shade 5, which is a soft matte dark brown. And then we have shade 6, which is kind of a neutral taupey brown. So let me swatch these out for you. So we have shade 4, 5, and 6. And then finally on the bottom row, this is kind of the pinkier row. We have shade 7, which is a dusty mauve color. Shade 8, which is a pink matte, kind of a mauvey pink matte. And then there's kind of this platinum with a little purple topper as shade 9. And that matte is going to take some building up because it's very close to my skin color. So there we have kind of the purple row, shade 7, 8, and 9. So this is the palette. It's supposed to give you kind of a new way of doing a smoky eye. It is beautiful. I do question whether it's high intensity, like it says, or if it's just simply because the colors they selected are so muted, because some of those tans and that pink were difficult for me to get a color on without building it up. But we'll see. You know, it really depends on how you put it on your eyes and how it performs on your eyes. And I very rarely have issues with Chanel products. Now, I've already done my base, and so I did the Chanel Sublimage Perfector as my primer, and then the Chanel Le Tint Concealer and Foundation. And I'll put the details in the description down below. But that's just, it's a beautiful natural finish, kind of natural matte, which I normally am not a huge matte fan, but this one looks really beautiful. So let's go in and take a look at this 9 pan and come up with 2 looks for it. So let me bring you in. Shockingly, I did that on the first time. Okay, so I'm going to grab my Rephr brushes because I do feel like with Pat McGrath, with Chanel, they just tend to work better with natural brushes. Although I have tried some that they work quite well with, but I've got my Shoto 00 here, and I'm going to start with shade 2, which is that very muted khaki kind of color. And I do have my Rare Beauty eyeshadow primer on, but that's it. You can see this color is almost the color of my skin tone. Kind of interested why they didn't do a black or gray, like a soft black or a dark deep gray in here too, or even a dark kind of bluish color. Maybe it's because last falls were just so incredibly pigmented and kind of jaw-dropping that this one is so muted. But it is very Chanel, that's for sure. Okay, so what we will do is try to build that up a little bit in the outer corner. So I'm going to go in with shade number 5, which is the matte in the center of the palette, and just kind of build this up a little bit. And that is a very pigmented color, so this would be good as a liner as well. It's really the nude colors in here and the soft pinks that are going to require a lot of building, because this brown is pretty stunning. I'm going to run a little of that under as well. I'm going to clean off my brush a little bit and remove any excess product, and then just kind of work it out on the edges. And you can always go in with shade number 2 again and blend it. They are beautiful blending colors. It's just, you know, they're so close to my skin tone that it's hard to get them to show up. Now on the lid itself, what do we want to do? I'm going to grab shade 7, which is the kind of the pinky metallic. And so I'm actually going to grab it on a wet brush because these are wet dry formula and they look really beautiful wet. And you can certainly get more payoff with it that way. Actually, I think the best payoff would probably be with my finger. So let's try that. Oh yeah. That is a beautiful pinky kind of color. Really like muted. Okay, and I'll go back in a little bit with some of that brown just to join them up again on the corner here. It's really pretty. Then on the inner third and on the inner corner, I'm going to grab shade number 9, which is that kind of platinum-y shade, and I'm going to grab it on my finger. Because these 4 shades that are in here are more like a topper, I think they're going to work better with your finger. Okay, so that's got a little bit of purple in it. I'm going to put that on the inner corner and the first third of my lid. So it's cooler than the first one, although I think this whole palette's pretty neutral cool. Okay, now if I want to amp this up a little bit, I can take shade number 1, but again, I'm not swirling, I'm just kind of tapping to pick up some of the particles, because this is really the showstopper of this palette. And I'm just going to place it in the center and pick it up to the brow. But it gives that scattered kind of effect. So we'll do liner and lashes with this in a second, but it's a beautiful, you know, sophisticated look. Okay, let's lean into the more of the bronzy kind of colors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my EyeShadow 00, and I'm going to grab shade 6, which is the slightly deeper matte. It's slightly deeper than shade 2. So let's see if it shows up a little better. Okay, it does show up more. It is pretty mild though still. Let's do a halo eye over here. So I'm going to put a little bit of the color on the inner and outer portions. You know, with those 5-look palettes last year, I was able to do, or with those 9 pans last year, I was able to do 5 looks, 1 palette with each of them because they were all so sort of extraordinary. I'm not sure I could do that this year and get 5 looks that looked wildly different. Everything's going to look like a smoky, kind of cool eye in here, which is not a bad thing. It's just something to, you know, keep in mind. Now I'm going to grab shade 4, which is this kind of purpley mauvey brown. And I'm going to place it as a metallic on the outer portion and on the inner portion. That is a beautiful color. And kind of meet them up in the center. That is a beautiful browny purple color. And it is a metallic, but it blends out well. And I'm going to take a little bit of that shade number 6. Actually, I'm going to take a little shade number 6 and a little shade number 4 together and just run it along the bottom. Okay, now across the bulk of the mobile lid, I'm going to grab some of this pink shade, which is shade number 8. And this is another one of those mattes that you really have to build up. Okay, this one's not as bad though. This one has more of a pink pigment right off the bat. Though I wonder if you're cooler than me or you have deeper skin. I don't know that it would necessarily work. Okay, so right there, I mean, granted that one purpley shade is a little bit metallic, but you could get kind of a cool matte only look there. Pretty dramatic. Okay, so let's grab, well, we've tried everything in the palette except for shade 3. So I'm going to grab shade 3, which is the sort of champagne-y metallic shade, and I'm going to place it on the center of the lid. Obviously, if you wanted more impact, you could use like a Pat McGrath Intensify wand. I'm going to grab a little bit more of shade number 4 just to blend out the edges. It's a pretty look. Okay, finally, I'm going to take a little bit of shade number 1, the star of the show, and I'm going to place it on the inner corner. It's just an icy white shade with no real base, and then some in the center. I love when Chanel does these, and I wish that this palette had one or two more of these kind of baseless, you know, topper shades. But they're both beautiful looks. This one's definitely more pinky, and this one's more kind of a neutral beigey. Okay, so I'm going to put liner and lashes on, and then we'll come back and take a look, and we'll look at the other products in this collection. So be right back. Okay, so I grabbed the Pat McGrath Black Coffee and put it in the waterline, and the Prada Brown Mascara. Chanel has mascaras and you know, eyeliners, and I have some. I just don't really have any in the brown family. And I'm not the biggest fan of Chanel mascara and Chanel eyeliners. Pat McGrath does beautiful ones. Of course, Victoria Beckham, she would have a lot that would do well here. You could even do like a pink liner here, like a soft petal pink to bring out the pink. But I just went the most basic, which is brown and brown. So let's take a look at the rest of the collection. But before we do that, I do need to bronze up a little bit before we put on the blush. So I'm just going to grab my Chanel Le Beige bronzer. And obviously, if you've used this product before, you know a little bit goes a long way to kind of bronze up the skin. In fact, I'm removing some excess product because this can very quickly get away from you. But it is a beautiful bronzer nonetheless. And I think it was last year, maybe the year before, they extended the shade range so that it wasn't so warm. And I think that that's really helped it. Okay. So, the new products. Well, this isn't a new product, it's a re-promote. But the Chanel Cream to Powder Blush, and there's 5 shades of this. It's my favorite Chanel blush. It's probably my favorite cream to powder blush formula. And there are 5 of them. They came out 2 years ago. I wish they would come out with more. But this is a very popular shade. And so it's just a beautiful neutral rose kind of shade. So I'm going to take that same brush and I'm going to remove any excess. No, you know what? I'll switch brushes. I don't want any of that brown transferring over. So I'm going to grab kind of a fluffy brush. I normally would say use a denser one because this is kind of a thicker kind of gel cream product. But I want to do just kind of a wash of it here. And I really worked it in this fluffy brush. It may be too fluffy. It may require something more dense. So let's switch back to that first brush. My first idea was the best one, which is a little more dense. Yeah. Yeah. That's giving more color payoff right away. So we don't have to have a 60-minute video of me trying to build up blush. And these are highly pigmented. It's just because they are a cream product, they do require a more dense brush. And this is the color if you wanted to see what it looks like on its own. It's a beautiful rose shade. And these are just so smooth and so beautiful and so blendable. I think they're just really spectacular. And then finally, as a highlight, don't kill me, but I really do think the best one that would work with this would be the unfortunately long gone, and I wish it would come back, Chanel Rêve de Camellia. The smaller Rêve de Camellia, not that big one they came out with, but this is one of the all-time best highlighters. Hard to get, though they do have it on the resale market. I think it was summer 2022 maybe this came out. It's a lot of people's holy grail product because it has no base and it just gives you the glow without any base at all. There are some others that are similar that you can get a similar effect from, like a light hand with the Prada one. it kind of just melts into the skin too. That's one more of a cream though. This is a pure powder with no base. So it's just really beautiful. Okay. Finally, the last part of this new sort of mini collection is a new lipstick. Well, I don't know if it's a new lipstick. There seems to be some controversy online if it's a new lipstick or a re-promote. But the new shade is called Crush, and it's in the satin formula, and it's got the CC embossing on it, which is very pretty. But it is described as a cool mauve taupe, and a lot of people feel like it is the exact same color as Flying Cloud, which came out earlier this year. They very well might be the same. When I watched Hand Beauty swatch them on her channel, they looked different. One looked a little cooler and a little richer. But here I've taken them outside, I've taken them to the window, and now here, it's very hard to tell the difference between the two. So if you have Flying Cloud, which is one of my favorites, you probably don't need Crush. But now if you love Flying Cloud and you use it a lot, well then it's a good opportunity to get Crush, because it is a beautiful shade and it has the special embossing on it. So I'm going to show you without a liner first. It's just a beautiful cool tone shade, and it goes so well with this color palette. Now to line it, because I do think it needs a little bit of a liner, I'm just going to grab one of the Chanel lip liners, and this is in Beige Rose. They have darker ones in this too, if you really wanted to play on that cool tone. But this Rose Beige I use a lot, I like it. A little excited there. So there you go. And if you wanted it to be a little glossy, you could always put one of the new glosses on from Chanel. They have that kind of purpley gray one. That'd be really pretty. Or if you wanted to warm it up a little, you could do like a nude. But what do we think? I think it's a beautiful palette. I don't think it's going to be one like those three last year where they were just spectacular. If you take out that one special shade that's on the top, it's a pretty muted palette. It's much more everyday than the first three. And again, I'm not sure I would call these high intensity. Some of them have a lot of intensity, but some of them are very, very mild. But I think they're beautiful. But again, I used completely different colors other than that one topper, and both of these looks kind of look similar. I mean, this one's more pink and this one's more neutral, but you're going to be kind of limited in what you can get with this. But if you like the Chanel formula, it's a really beautiful palette. It's also 130 where last year's were 160. I wonder if that's because of all the extra finishes and pigments they had. I don't really know. You don't typically see Chanel drop a price. But I think it's a really beautiful palette, and I think if you already have Flying Cloud and you already have the blush, I mean, you can create this look. It's really, really, elegant, and it's a new way, as they call it, a new way of doing a smoky eye, which I think is interesting without using any kind of blacks or grays or charcoals or anything. You can get a beautiful, sophisticated look. So if you like this kind of content, please consider liking, subscribing, following along, shopping my links, and all that good stuff. It really helps out the channel. Unsolicited advice on YouTube and Instagram. Bye, everybody.